I'm delighted to say we're with the writer and director Andrew Haigh. How are you?
I'm very good. It's good to be here.
It's great to see you. I've got to say we were both blown away by this movie. It was so heartbreaking, so poignant, really powerful piece of work.
Thank you.
So congratulations.
I literally cried 3 times.
That's good. That is my intention, to make people cry, so it's good.
It's an amazing story. It is a heartbreaking story. It's very uplifting too, because obviously it centres on a boy who's going through troubled times with his father. Without wanting to plot spoil, I won't say any more than that. But he does befriend a horse because he works for a horse, which is ageing.
Yeah, and not very good. And I mean, what I loved about the original novel was this sense of, it is a story about a boy and a horse, but at the same time, it's certainly not a sentimental Disney version of that story. You know, it really is about this kid more than it is about everything else, and about what he needs and how he needs kind of safety and stability and love and connection. And I think, you know, regardless of whether you're a 15-year-old kid falling through the cracks in Oregon or you're living in London, I think everyone can understand that feeling of wanting that protection, I suppose.
I think that's what really hit home for me, actually, because I was a 15-year-old kid growing up in Oregon. So I found it really interesting that as a British director, you're able to hit on and capture a moment in time that's very true to someone like me who actually grew up in that area. I felt the whole film was really authentic. And God, I've had those many thoughts myself about, hey, there's really nothing else here for me to do, so I'm kind of stuck here. What do? I want to run away. I didn't have a horse, but I wanted to run away. So really congratulations on that.
Thank you. I love that you're from Oregon. That's so good.
From a little small town in Oregon.
What's the town called?
It's called Hermiston. Very close to Union, Oregon, that you mentioned in the film.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to shoot in that locale, actually?
The book that it's based on is set there, and, you know, after reading the book and falling in love with that book, I knew that I wanted it to be in that location. I remember sitting down with the writer of the novel, and he was like, "So you're going to film this in California?" And I'm like, "No, it has to be in Oregon. It has to be there." And the racetrack is so well described in the book, and it's the racetrack that's in the movie, and so it was really important to me that you can, you know, ground it in the reality of the world. So yeah, it was very important.
I love the fact that you give everything space too. You don't rush into things with the scenes, because obviously it's got to tell the story, but you don't rush into obviously deliberately putting in lots of action, although it's, you know, you're captivated by the whole thing right from the first scene. I was just brought in completely, drawn into it. Was that a deliberate thing? Was that something you wanted to do?
I think it's how I like my films to be, and it's like how I like to make things. I like to allow there to be that time and space, and I think some audiences will respond to that and then others won't necessarily. But for me, it's about, I think you can bring the audience into your world a lot more if you take a bit of care and consideration in like asking them to be brought in and making them concentrate, look around, you know, feel what's happening. So it's just kind of how I suppose like to make films.
And Charlie Plummer is just amazing. He's such an amazing actor, and he was 16, I believe.
He was 16. He's amazing, and what I love about him is, in the film, he looks like a boy, and then he suddenly looks like he's grown up again, and then he's like a little child again, and that like cusp of being, I mean, I know what it's, I remember being 15, and I was a bit of a late starter. I looked really young when I was 15, and, you know, wanting to be a man, but you're not a man, and not even knowing what that means anyway, about what it means to be, you know, a grown-up, and I feel like Charlie is very good at portraying that.
He was so mature, though, because he was vulnerable, like you say. It was a real mixture, but he had to go through so many difficult things in his life to almost be more, you know, older than he was. I guess.
But it's also, he's very sensitive. He's a sensitive kid, which I liked. I didn't want to make a film about a really like tough kind of American like kid. I wanted to make him like sensitive and
I actually really love the fact that one of the opening scenes, when your boxes are still unpacked and he's just sitting there watching ice skating. It's like, that felt like me when I was growing up. So.
It's every gay boy's story.
Was that an element that you wanted to touch on but not kind of give away? Was it?
It's interesting to me because I feel like, to me, I had somebody ask me in America, and I was doing some press, like, why have you not made a story about a gay character? And I'm like, why do you assume that Charlie isn't gay? Like, you know, to me, he could easily be gay, and probably in my heart is gay, mainly because I'm putting myself into the story. But to me, he feels like easily could be a gay kid. And they were almost like, couldn't quite understand. They're like, but you don't say that he's gay. And I'm like, but that doesn't mean he's gay. He's not gay. I mean, he's 15-year-old. Of course he could be gay.
I suppose that's not the emphasis of this movie particularly, is it? Because the emphasis is his
something
life
else.
And his family's life. And
Exactly.
Is that something that you're going to want to do in the future with maybe the next movie or movies after that?
You mean more gay themed?
Go more gay themed?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a weird thing. I think, because this hasn't been, even though it could be seen as that, and 45 years wasn't, it's like, oh, you don't want to make gay stuff anymore. And yeah, of course I do. It's not like I'm turning my back on gayness. It's just there are stories I want to tell, and some of them will be about obviously gay characters, and some of them won't be. And it's whatever that is that makes sense to me at the time is what I'll do. So, and some of my projects in the future have gay characters and some don't. And to me, I'm certainly totally gay, but I'm not just gay. So there are lots of other things that I want to tell stories about.
That's interesting you say that, because with 45 years, I could totally relate to the characters, even though they were older than me.
Yeah. Well, I do think that there was a queer perspective that goes through both 45 years and Lean on Pete. Like, I think inevitably my perspective and my feeling of the world will be in the films that I make, and because I am gay, I think there will be a slightly different perspective in the films.
I just want to say tremendous growth from seeing you as a director, from Greek Pete to The Weekend to I'm a super fan of Looking, and to this. So just real kudos on keeping us captivated. And what have you learned from Greek Pete to Looking to Lean on Pete now?
I don't know what I've learned, apart from I'm just amazed that I'm still doing it. I think I thought that I would never be able to make it, I suppose, is what I always thought. So it's nice that I can still make films and still tell these kind of stories. You learn everything. Each film that you go on to, you learn something different, and you learn to get better at certain things. In the end, I still feel the same as I ever did when I started making Greek Pete all those years ago. It's like you step into a room, you're trying to make a scene work, you're trying to understand what it is, you're trying to do it in a way that feels truthful to you, and that difficulty is always there, but I think I'm just probably getting more experience about how to navigate through that and tell stories on maybe a slightly bigger scale.
See, I can see similarities with 45 Years and this new movie, but also equally the previous work as well. Is there anything particularly that you learnt from with making movies before that you wanted to put into this film?
I think what it is just like I don't know if it's even that. I think as the more that I make films, the more sure I am about the way that I want to make them. So whereas I was used to be more nervous about telling a film in a certain way or giving it certain space or certain, room to breathe, or just how I want the scenes to develop, I've become more confident that they work, and they work for my films, and that I can just stick with doing that and don't try and be another filmmaker. In the early days, you're constantly saying, I want to be like this, I want to be like that. And now I'm like, well, I just am what I am. Here you go, I am what I am.
I love that. I love that reference. Got to throw that in there somewhere. Is there anything that you're working on now that you haven't talked about? Maybe
I'm working on this limited series for BBC, which is set on a 1850s whaling ship in the Arctic. So it's definitely a different story. There's just a bunch of angry men on a boat. So hopefully that will happen early next year. And there's another number of films that I'm at different stages of development.
Is there anything that you're looking forward to seeing from a viewer's perspective rather than a writer and director? Like movies that are coming out in the next year?
Interesting. Well, I don't know. I feel like there's so many films that will come out over this year that I haven't even heard about are good or not good. So there's always things. I'm not like a film snob, so I'll go and see The Avengers, and then I'll go and see a Russian art house film. So I like to see both.
That sounds like us, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
We have very different tastes, and also equally very similar tastes too. But yeah,
it's good not to say no to anything.
That's a very good point to end. Andrew, it's great to meet you today. I wish you all the best with the movie. I know from previous movies that you've made, the reception has been brilliant. So I think you've got a lot of people on your side with this one.
That's good to know. Thank you.